Well, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday to everybody. If you're watching live, hey, happy live Thursday to you because it's YSS Facebook live here, YSS Let's Talk. And I am thrilled for tonight. I'm always excited for our Facebook Let's Talk lives. But tonight, I'm really excited because I get to talk with a colleague that I literally share an office with. Taylor Nuehring is absolutely an incredible lady, one of the most knowledgeable ladies on the topic that we're going to be talking about, which is a topic that might be uncomfortable for some to talk about, which is sexual health education. So we're going to, and that's what we're here tonight to do, is to talk more and give tools and resources and give you some hints about how to have this really important conversation. So before I go much further, Taylor Nuehring, welcome to you to YSS Let's Talk.
Thanks, Rusty.
This is exciting. Like I say, we're seeing each other through a computer screen, which with the virtual world that we've been living in, we've been doing this a lot lately.
We have been.
Yeah, and you've been awesome at it. We've been making it work. And let's also go back to this topic of sexual health education. I'm going to put a little disclaimer out there for those of you who are tuning in live. We have a comment box there. Please make some comments. Let us know that you're watching. Also, if you have questions throughout this, please put your questions in there. I'm also hoping that we have some friends that are going to join us through the chat box later on, and they might be able to chime in, answer some questions. Because again, with this topic, I mean, am I wrong here, Taylor? There's a lot of questions.
So many questions.
So many questions. And that's the thing, is we go into the classrooms. Again, Taylor is a colleague of mine, which is why I'm so giddy and excited to do this YSS Let's Talk, as I am every week. But I get to actually talk about the field that I work in. And that's why partly this is so exciting to me. But as we go into those classrooms, we get a lot of questions from students.
So many questions.
So many questions, and so many questions from parents and the adults too. So with this topic that we're talking about tonight, I do want to put out there that we are not doctors. We're not nurses. We're not medical professionals, so we can't address any questions about any, medical questions, that kind of thing. But also, we want to be very sensitive and stick with the facts. And we will provide you resources and a lot of information later on. Please keep any questions or comments appropriate. Taylor, anything I missed there?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So, well, then without further ado, let me say this, Taylor, and I'm excited to ask you this because I'm excited to hear your answer. When you watch the news about sex ed or sexual health education, you hear a lot of different views on what it looks like in the schools. And here we are, able to talk about it from the experts that actually go into the schools, and be it that we teach supplemental to their program, or be it that we are the people that come in and actually teach the sexual health education, we can speak on this. So now I'm going to throw the question to you. What does sexual health education look like?
Yeah, so at YSS, our adolescent pregnancy prevention program, we really focus on using medically accurate information that's age appropriate and values neutral. So we come in, like Rusty said, and we just want to give you all the facts. We want to give you tools and resources we want to give the students tools and resources to go home and talk to their trusted adults or their parents or guardians or whoever it may be and figure out their values and beliefs. Because as I'm sure you all know, there are so many values and beliefs that everyone has surrounding this topic. And everyone's is going to look a little different. So we strongly encourage, with family worksheets, with questions, with all sorts of things, to go bring that to that trusted adult that they have in their life and talk about what that looks like for them.
And that's one thing I love, again, and I can talk about this since I go into the classrooms with you and talk about this, that one thing we do in our sexual health education programs is we help youth define whatever those trusted adults might be. So can you give some examples of maybe some roles or different people that might be trusted adults in kids' lives?
Yeah, so those trusted adults may be their parents, it may be grandparents, it could be coaches, the next door neighbor, a friend's parent, an aunt, an uncle, maybe they have an older brother or sister, just someone that they have that they can turn to when they say, I'm really in trouble, I need to talk to someone, or I have this really important question, who can I go to? Having them sit there and reflect about who that may be, because it's not always a mom or a dad.
Right.
There's lots of people in our lives who can be trusted adults.
Yeah, and I had a good student come up to me not too long ago who was telling me that he found his trusted adult. And I was so happy for him. And I said, well, who was that? And it was his youth pastor at the church. And I thought that was absolutely awesome. I mean, so it can, the trusted adult, and that is such an important part, because when we're talking about sexual health education, it's pretty important, right, Taylor? Oh, and I think Taylor might have froze on me.
I'm back.
Oh, there, you're back. Okay, so I was asking you the question that sexual health education is pretty important.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and and we're going to talk about here in just a little bit about how much it really encompasses. But we're moving into a month right now that is October. Mm-hmm. And October is a special month with sexual health education. And Taylor, why is it such a special month? Taylor likes to freeze on me right now. And I don't know why she likes to freeze on me, but she does. But I can answer that question too, unless she comes back real quick. And she's not going to. So as we're getting Taylor back, I can say that October is also known as Talk-tober. And Talk-tober is all about talking about the sexual health information and encouraging caregivers, those trusted adults that Taylor and I were just talking about, to engage in dialogue, open up the dialogue, take advantage of teachable moments to talk about sexual health and healthy relationships and all of that entails. So Taylor again is, and hopefully we'll get her back here shortly. She might be having just a little bit of an internet connection. My name is Rusty Johnson, YSS Prevention Specialist. We're talking about Talk-tober and sexual health information and encouraging you to take advantage of the teachable moments and talk with your kids about having healthy relationships and ultimately what sexual health education looks like. And through our YS programming in the schools, and we actually teach not only in the schools, we teach through residential addiction facilities where we help youth. We teach at various programs where we go into communities. And Taylor, we work with adults too, correct?
We do, yes.
We also work with parenting teens and parenting
teens. Yep.
There we go. And that so much, like I said, there's just too much to talk about all on this. So right before you froze up on me,
I've been having good luck all day. I don't know what's going on.
Welcome to 2020.
Right.
Okay, well, now that Taylor's back, I can throw this back to her. And I was asking you, what is Talk-tober all about?
So Talk-tober, or Let's Talk Month, Advocates for Youth is a group that encourages sexual health, that promotes sexual health. They created this month to encourage adults, those trusted adults, to talk to the youth in their life about sexual health. Because like we said, it's such an important topic and there's so many different values and beliefs surrounding it. And parents look up to their kids so much that this is such an important thing for them to talk to their
Yeah,
youth about.
absolutely. And let me also ask you, one of the questions I guess that I have is, where do you think teens learn about sexual health? Where are they getting, first let's talk about where are they getting the information so that we can build off of that?
Yeah, so this is a really great question. So a study done nationally showed, I have a couple, I think this is a different statistic here.
Oh,
8 out of 10 teens talk to their parents. Planned Parenthood did that study. 8 out of 10 teens report talking to them about sexual health. So that's a lot. That's 80%.
yeah.
That's a really good number. Most kids find their information from parents, from friends, and from the internet. Those are the 3 big places that they're going to find their information. I saw your face when you said the internet.
Yeah, because I mean, I know that when we go into classes, we talk about this. And we come in and we say, hey, we're here to give you the facts, to give you maybe some statistics. We're not here to change your mind or whatnot.
Yeah.
We're here to present information. We're not here to give you our values or our, you know, that's up to you and your trusted adult. But we're also here to give you the resources and to direct you to where you go. And I would say probably, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Taylor, but 90%, if not more, of the kids get their information from the internet. They'll Google it if that's what they want to know. And I'll ask you this, is there a risk to that?
With everything with the internet, there's always a risk. There's always going to be that source that says something is correct, that this big scary thing is going to come get you if you do A, B, or C. And you just have to know what you're looking for. Just like you learned, well, I know I learned when I was in school, look for the .org, look for the reliable resources, look at the CDC. Planned Parenthood is a great website. IDPH, Iowa Department of Public Health. There are just so many great resources out there. You have to know what you're looking for.
And that's one thing that we also give to our youth, as we equip them with the proper resources to go to.
Yes.
I'll never forget when I was watching you teach once, you were saying, you know, even be careful of Wikipedia, you know, and Wikipedia has a lot of great information, but you've got to fact check it. You've got to know what you're really looking for, and of course, how you're going about that. Another big question I think that people might be, and I haven't even checked our comment box yet, and I'll back up real quick and say, if you are watching live, you're welcome to ask a question or put in a comment, but I'm guessing this will come up, is how soon do you start talking to youth or to kids about sexual health, sexual relationships, healthy relationships? How soon?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's not really an age that's too early. There are things we can be talking about with our kids through their whole lives. So starting from when they're born and when they're a baby, teaching them the proper bodily anatomy, teaching them what their body parts are, that it's a penis and a vagina or a vulva, walking them through that. So when changing diapers, saying, you know, I'm wiping off your penis, I'm wiping your vulva, to kind of let them know what you're doing and let them know that those are their body parts. So really giving them the power of knowledge. With that, that's going to not only help them know their body, but when kids know their body parts, the names, the proper medical names, that reduces the risk of them being sexually assaulted drastically. Because if a youth knows the name of their body part, that's going to scare off an adult because they're like, oh, they're going to know how to tell someone that this is happening to me.
Or I'm also, and that was actually a question I was going to move into, is why is it so important to teach the anatomically correct terms? But I would also assume that then if there is any risk of abuse or assault or anything like that, they would be able, like you say, to correctly identify that, yes, versus calling that a term that maybe a teacher or a principal or a pastor wouldn't know even what they're talking about. They're actually saying that, yes, they're using that anatomically correct term. And so
I have something else really quick. So I actually had a middle school teacher tell me this story. He was telling his students why it was so important to use the proper bodily terms. He had a student that was in middle school that was having a lot of pain in his testicles, and he didn't know what they were called. And so he kept telling people that he had this pain and that it was so uncomfortable. And he ended up curled over in class crying one day because there was so much pain, and he ended up being rushed to the ER. And I don't remember what was wrong, but he didn't know the terms, and he wasn't comfortable talking about them. So he just lived with this pain for weeks. So just encouraging them and giving them the power to know about their body.
Well, and can this also play into a big subject that we talk a lot about in schools, which is consent and boundaries?
Absolutely.
How does it play into that?
So again, once they're old enough, those kids are old enough to understand, walking them through, I'm changing your diaper, I'm helping you wipe your bottom, I'm helping get you dressed, telling kids that, we are there to help keep them safe. So people who are keeping us healthy and safe, it's okay for them to maybe touch or look at those parts of our body. But if someone's asking us to keep secrets about them or asking us not to tell, then we know we might need to tell mom or dad or whoever that trusted adult is, even if they made us promise not to. So just encouraging that from the young age, walking them through saying, this is your body. I'm here to help you. I'm here to keep you healthy. That's why we're doing this. That's why I'm touching these parts. And just letting them know that keeping secrets about our body isn't okay.
Yeah, and that was something that I learned early on through my education, my training, becoming a sexual health educator, was really learning about what secrets are okay to keep and what secrets are not okay to keep. And, again, that goes kind of back to those trusted adults too, that we talked about earlier, and identifying those. But knowing that if it's a secret that really does hurt you, or is it okay to tell any secret to trusted adults, which can be really, really important too. Let me ask you another question so we talked about early on, like anatomically correct terms, and that can start really early. Does it change for youth that get to middle school about the things that maybe you want to talk about?
Yeah, so as the brain develops, there's always more things that you can talk about, and kids generally get really curious. So it might be when they start school, not just middle school, that they are they're curious about where babies come from. So telling them that, babies grow in the moms, we usually say tummy, but talking about the uterus. And telling them that that's where the baby grows. And then maybe as they get a little older, talking about how the baby gets in there, but just making sure that they are developmentally ready to talk about these things. And as they get to middle school, then, really getting into that prevention part. That's the part we usually hit in classrooms. Right. Talking about, sorry, my headphones keep falling out and touching my ears.
2020 really, again. It's 2020.
I know, 2020. Talking about how they can keep safe. So how abstinence is the only 100% effective way to not have an unplanned pregnancy or STD. But if someone's going to choose to have sex, they might want to choose to use a condom or use birth control or another different method to prevent those STIs, STDs, and unplanned pregnancy.
Yeah, and so that's kind of, you're saying, more the middle school area there.
More like later middle school. So early middle school, talking about puberty, friendships, relationships, boundaries, really hitting on that consent and boundaries, talking about friendships, because a lot of those relationship qualities that we talk about with friendships are also the same for relationships.
Yeah, and I don't know really what your sex ed looked like in school, Taylor, but I do know what mine looked like. And it was really where they separated the boys and the girls. And it was a lot of fear tactics. And I don't know if it was like that with you, but it really didn't work with me. And now we know that fear tactics really don't work. They're not the most efficient way to go about things. And as a sexual health educator myself, I can say that how many curriculums are we certified in that we use? And I know you're going to have to throw off a number here too, because I know it's a lot. But what would you say, 6, 7?
Oh, that we use?
Yes, or that we're trained in.
I would say 6 or 7 is a good number.
Yeah.
I would say our options that we have that we aren't trained in, that we don't use, I would say we have 10 to 15.
Yeah. So, and we, I mean, again, and 6, 7, that's where a lot of times you'll go through an entire week long training to get certified. And the reason you do that is because it's an evidence-based training. It has results. And again, abstinence is a huge key, a part of any of these curriculums that we use, and the STDs or STIs, as you were talking about, and all of this. And then we can kind of tailor that to the schools and to the programs that we come in and we work with to see what their needs are and what they want. Again, the evidence-based part, ultimately, what really, really does work. And something else that's great is so much of it is not like, again, back when I was in school and the fear tactics and this is what an STD does. It's but about relationships and about really working on communication, working on these skills, learning how to say no, what that looks like. And something else that's great is and so what would you say, Taylor, as far as when does the no conversation come up as far as learning when to say no?
I think it can start really early. It can start with, as a young kid, maybe you're playing a tickle game and you're tickling your kid and they say, no, I don't want to. And stopping, saying, okay, I respect that. Or no, I don't want to hug that person. I don't want to hug them. I don't want to give them a goodbye kiss. And saying, that's okay. It's your body. So teaching them from the early age so that they can say no.
And then if you start early on, like you just said, you start early on, then you can build that into, like you said, that kind of consent and coercion lessons through middle school and really healthy relationships through high school. So how do you start these conversations?
That's a great question.
Right?
These can be really hard conversations to start. I mean, we can all agree with that. I have lots of resources and tips and tricks that we're going to put up on a resource slide later. But I think the really big thing is to just be honest, to tell the youth, I'm a resource. I know some of this stuff, but I don't know everything. And I tell the kids that when I go into a classroom. So, I know a lot. I went to school. I've been through trainings. I've been doing this for 3 years now, but I might be the expert, but I don't know everything. So there might be things where you say, wow, that's a really great question. Let me go look that up for you. Let me go find a really reliable resource and I'll get back to you. I'll let you know what I find, because that's going to build so much rapport and so much respect with those kids that you're saying, let's figure this out together.
And is there one thing I've got blindsided with, if I may say, in classes that I've had to go back and research myself is these new songs or the new kind of, I don't know, what would you call it, like popular culture things that have references. Yeah. And so that would be something to be aware of, I'd assume too, correct?
There are so many opportunities within pop culture, whether you're driving down the road and you're listening to some music and they say something that could pop up a conversation, or you're watching TV and on this show they're talking about sex, or they're talking about consent or birth control or whatever it may be, saying, hey, can we have a conversation about this? Do you have any questions? Or, oh, I totally lost it. It was a really great point. It was what you said. I was going to tie it back to something you said.
Well, I'm sure you can come back to that.
I'm sure it will.
It will. And usually this is, and for folks tuning in right now, this is Taylor Nuehring. She is our YSS pregnancy, adolescent pregnancy prevention coordinator. And my name's Rusty Johnson. I am a prevention specialist. We both work in the schools and through different programs teaching sexual health education and teaching really ultimately healthy relationships. So again, if you're tuning in right now, please, you're welcome to ask a comment, because I'm just drilling Taylor with questions here, because there's so many.
You are.
I know, but there's so many questions out here on this topic, because it's not. I don't think I'm sugarcoating this. It's not a comfortable conversation for a lot of parents to have with kids about sexual health education, but there's resources out there, and so many right here in Iowa. We have phenomenal partners that we work with at YSS, and talk about, if you don't mind, talk about PCA Iowa a bit.
Yeah, so Prevent Child Abuse Iowa is an organization here. They have recently, in the past couple of years, started partnering with us through our community adolescent pregnancy prevention grant. So they are just awesome, amazing, working with us to get all of our resources and programming out into the schools throughout the whole state of Iowa. They're just awesome. They've done so much great work. We have a link for them. They have an awesome resource. It's pcaiowa.org/let's talk. And then there's adults and there's a teen section. So it gives both adults and teens ways that you can bring up this conversation with one another. What else do you want to add, Rusty? No,
absolutely. And I got to give a shout out to Laura, which is your friend of ours, but she works with us so close, and just a wealth of knowledge. And that's one thing I love, is that when people ask us questions. Earlier today, I got asked a question by a friend, and what do? I text Laura real quick if I don't know the answer, or I'll text Mary from IDPH, or I'll text, my goodness, I'm going, because this is the thing, is being connected. And it really does. Again, I say this all the time on YSS Let's Talk. It takes a village in all of our programs. And that's kind of what I think we ultimately are experts at, is really being connected with so many different resources. And I know we have a video here from Prevent Child Abuse Iowa that we can share. And this is just kind of a little snapshot of one of the resources that you can find right here locally and produced. So without further ado.
Sometimes it feels like we're always, on. But when it comes to sex, we could all use a good pause to stop and say, make sure you're both ready for sexual activity, and that you discuss all the possible outcomes. After all, you rule your world. So when the pressure's on, hit.
Well, that was a hit pause, I think.
Well, proper timing.
You're right. So hit pause. But again, that's just one example of so many resources out there. You've got the national resources, but we've got some phenomenal local resources and phenomenal experts like Taylor Nuehring right here. And great resources. And hey, if you're watching and you got questions or suggestions even, or ideas, you can contact any of the sexual health educators through YSS just by going to www.yss.org. You can also go, we have a page there that you can find out about the sexual health programs. We have a Facebook page, and we'll throw all of that there later on. Also, I've got to give a shout out to YSS Let's Talk. YSS Let's Talk way back when, which was goodness, only probably about, I don't know,
6 months?
Yeah, 6 months ago. When we started, it started with a sexual health education talk. And the great thing is that video is still on www.yss.org. If you go to the Let's Talk section, you can click on there and you can hear from Laura, who we were just talking about. She was one of the panelists. And Taylor, you will not hear because she left me. She was on maternity leave.
I know.
She was on maternity leave, but and I was listening to an interview of yours on the radio earlier, and you were talking about already starting to engage in dialogue with your child about exactly what we're talking about. Am I correct there?
You're very correct. We walk through when we're in the bath, taking a bath. We walk through, we're washing our hair, we're washing our body, we're washing our arms, washing our arms and our legs. We usually sing a song to it. But we talk about how, we're washing our penis, we're washing our bottom to keep us safe and healthy because we have to clean our body. And when we're changing diapers, just walking through, kind of like I talked about, just letting him know what we're doing because it's his body that we are just trying to help him stay healthy.
And I can safely say to any parent or mentor out there that is watching this, that as a sexual health educator, at first it can be uncomfortable to even use anatomically correct terms. Just saying penis or saying those words out loud, it can be, but after a while, it's a hand, it's an ear, it's a nose, it's a, and
elbow.
It's an elbow, absolutely. And teaching that's so incredibly, incredibly important. So we've talked about consent, but what are some other important topics that we want to encourage folks tuning in or listening to talk about?
Yeah, so like we said, talking about that consent and those healthy relationship qualities, talking about boundaries, talking about, what your values and beliefs are. If you say, some people believe that it's not okay to have sex before marriage. Some people say, as long as you're doing it safely, it's a part of life. So walking them through what those values and beliefs that you have with them are, expectations of what dating looks like. I know when my mom and I had the talk, she told me one expectation was there were no boys upstairs. My room was upstairs. No boys upstairs. So that was one big rule that we had. And then talking about if you're choosing to have sex, how can you do it safely? How can you protect yourself and your partner from pregnancy and STIs?
Yes.
So talking about things like condoms and dental dams and birth control, saying, and this might be that part where you say, I'm not an expert, but let's go find someone. Let's go talk to a doctor who can figure out what the best option for you may be, because it's not one size fits all with birth control. Everyone's going to have something that works best for them.
And talk about that real quick, Taylor. We're giving information right now for parents or guardians or trusted adults to ultimately engage in dialogue. Take advantage of teachable moments. If you're watching a movie and you happen to be a parent, and let's pretend that you're watching a movie and there happens to be a sex scene in the movie and there's no wedding ring on, and that's an ethic or a value that's important to your family, you can engage in that dialogue. That's a teachable moment, absolutely, because that's not something we teach in the schools. We don't teach the ethics the values or the morals. Yep. We leave that up to the families. So, however, with us, what I'm trying to say is with us giving those resources to the people watching, if they need more resources as far as birth control, as far as be it condoms, like you were talking about, if that's the route they choose to go, where do they get these, or where do they find out about this?
Yeah, so like I said, there's a lot of resources for how to start that talk. But once you're in that talk, reaching out to a primary healthcare physician.
Okay.
If you're looking for free condoms. There are free condoms all over the state. Most people don't know that.
We've got how many in
Everywhere.
our office?
I have like 5 boxes in my office right now. Not like boxes, like boxes.
Yes.
But places like therapy offices, a lot of gyms will have them. I know for sure Iowa State and UNI have free condoms in their gyms, in the locker rooms and residence halls. I'm sure the University of Iowa does too. DMAC does. There's a website called myiacondoms.com where you can type in your zip code, and all the places that have registered on there that have free condoms will pop up, and they'll give you your address and say where the condoms are. So that's a really cool resource that I didn't give to anyone, but just popped into my head.
Good.
To find free condoms.
I told you, folks, Taylor is a wealth of knowledge. You really are.
But reaching out to just a nurse or family doctor is going to be a great resource for birth control.
And that was kind of my next thing was with birth control. And there's, as I educate on various methods of contraception or birth control, there's a lot out there. And there's so many different unique options. There's so many different, and again, so many different varying influences there. If folks have more questions about that, you're saying doctors, nurses?
Yep.
And is there healthcare clinics? I mean, can they just...
It just popped into my head what you were asking me. I know, keep up. There's lots of family planning clinics around the state. A really big one is going to be Planned Parenthood, is a great resource to get questions answered about birth control. There are just so many that I can't even name them off of the top of my head. But if you go into Google and type in family planning clinics, there's going to be so many. Make sure you scroll past the ad ones and look at those real webs or the resources, the real websites. Because you can, if you scroll, I can tell you this from personal experience, there's one in Ames that if you just click one of the top ones, it takes you to something in Georgia. And that's not going to be any helpful to you. So make sure you know what you're looking for. But there are tons of resources for family planning clinics.
And I'm just going to throw you out there, Taylor, that, hey, if folks have questions, can they contact you?
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm not a doctor by any means. I can tell you about the birth control methods. I can tell you how they work. I can tell you how long they're effective. But like Rusty said, I only went to school for 4 years. I didn't get my doctorate or my nursing degree. So I'm not going to be able to tell you which option is best for you, but I can tell you all about the methods. Yeah.
Okay. So, and if you want to contact Taylor or you want to contact me, you can also go, www.yss.org, and you can find out about all this information that we're talking about here on this YSS Let's Talk. Taylor, I also have a question here. What is the best way to explain to family or friends that want a hug or a kiss why you are not forcing your child to do so?
Awesome question.
Yeah.
So that can be a really hard conversation with our family members. I'll be the first one to say if someone says that to me, I'm going to be like, oh, but what you say after that is you're going to say, I'm teaching them that it's their body. They have the right to choose. I'm not going to force them to do something they don't want to do, and just kind of leave it at that. So, maybe give alternate ways to say goodbye. Maybe, instead of a hug or a kiss, hey, grandma, do you want a high five? Do you want a fist bump? Do you want to make up a cool handshake? Find something that they are comfortable with instead of maybe making them do something that they're not ready for.
And I love it. It's also kind of a segue into another teachable moment about that boundaries discussion that we were having earlier. I mean, I'm all about teachable moments. You can find teachable moments everywhere. And my goodness, with how many video games and how much, no matter what, if you're on a walk, One of the best teachable moments I heard the other day talking about sexual health education was just go out on a walk in spring and watch the birds. That's why they call them birds and bees for a reason. You can watch, but again, I make a joke of it, but it's true. I mean, that's a great segue into taking advantage of those teachable moments and really engaging in this. Taylor and I go into so many different schools. We go into so many different programs. And one thing I have to give massive props to with our sexual health education program now and the partners that we have is kind of the comprehensiveness of what sexual health looks like today. And again, so much different, as I was talking earlier in this YSS Let's Talk, so much different than what it looked like earlier during my youth. But it is truly comprehensive. And Taylor, if you don't mind me throwing this to you again, when I say comprehensive, I know you know what I'm talking about. What does the comprehensive look like? Like, let's look at, for instance, our teen outreach program, or programs like that we work under with sexual health.
Yeah. So our teen outreach program is a really awesome group. We have 4 groups through YSS. There are lots of other groups throughout the state. Teen outreach program is a program developed by Wyman down in Missouri, I believe. But it's a program where kids get the opportunity to pick their lessons, and they get to pick what they want to talk about. And so we have lessons that we do with them, and then we have community service learning that we do. But with the lessons that we do, we focus a lot on, I'm going to read from my list. Don't mind me. There's so much. I didn't want to forget anything.
And with TOP, and since I teach TOP, I can tell you there are how many lessons? I mean, we're talking hundreds of lessons so we're not talking just when people think sex ed, no. It's healthy relationship, it's communications. So yeah, what are some of the highlights of the lessons? Sorry to interrupt you there.
So no, it's great. So we focus on personal responsibility and self-regulation, refraining from sex while improving their physical and emotional health, avoiding poverty by encouraging self-sufficiency, emotional maturity before having sex, different components of healthy relationships and healthy friendships, other risky behaviors that increase teen sex, so talking about different substances, how to avoid sexual coercion and dating violence, and even if consent is given, if teen sex can still be a risky behavior. So those are just some of like the big things that we hit on, but it's so much about boundaries and how to give back to the community and how to build relationships and how to bounce back when we have times of adversity and how to deal with those problems. One of my favorite ones is a calming lesson. So it talks about stress. So we go through and we do a breathing exercise together and talk about how if we're in a tough situation, how can we get through it? How can we make those decisions? And that all goes back to sexual health, because if we are with our partner and they're pressuring us to do something, how do we work through that? How do we work through it if we're really upset? So going back to all these lessons and it works together, it's just so cool.
It is. And if I can share one of my favorite top lessons,
of course,
teen outreach program is, do you know what I'm doing if I do this, Taylor? I don't know if you've taught this lesson before. Yeah. And it talks about ultimately flipping your lid. And when you get heated in the moment and you flip your lid, and it talks about your brain and what parts of your brain and how, and it just makes sense after. And I'm not going to, if you want to learn more, you're going to have to come to a top lesson. and then you can find out more about what we're talking about. But this is truly what we're talking about when we're saying sexual health education and that comprehensive part of it. And I love what you said earlier, Taylor. Always, I mean, keeping abstinence is, yes, that is the only 100% way to ensure against STIs and pregnancy. I mean, am I correct there?
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100% correct.
Yes. So, and definitely always keeping that as a core part of this. So again, last chance for anybody watching, because we got to wrap this up. Taylor, I could talk to you all night long.
I know, we could keep going.
Well, we talk all day long anyway, don't we?
It's true.
But if anybody else does have a quick question or a comment, you're welcome to put that in there. I'm talking with Taylor Nuehring right now, our YSS Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Coordinator. And she is the expert on all things sexual health education. And we work with a lot of schools, residential programs. And again, we've talked about all of the comprehensiveness of this. If you want to review this or share this, please do so. You can go to yss.org and you can share this video. So much important information to get out there. And truly, if I can say, to educate people what sexual health education looks like in the schools. Because I think there's a lot of myths out there. I've heard them. And when I'm, as a sexual health educator, when I'm watching that, I'm like, no, that's not what's happening. I'm in the school teaching. I know this. And so get the information out there. And if you have questions, if you want to know some conversation starters, maybe some ideas of teachable moments to take advantage of, you can find all of those resources on the slides. And again, if you just go to yss.org, you can rewatch this video and get all of those slides. So
I feel like you, Rusty. I'm going to give a shameless plug right here. So I know I've been hanging out with you too much, or virtually.
I love it.
So one of those resources was our Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Facebook page at APPYSS. I'm going to be posting later today and tomorrow, tonight and tomorrow, fact sheets that are going to give you some information to talk to teens. I'm going to give you conversation starters. Right now I'm talking on Facebook. I'm giving every day a different topic about what our sexual health programming looks like. So go follow us, go like our page, because I am giving so many resources this month, and not only this month, but throughout the whole year. So that's a really great resource to have for you and your team.
Yeah, and you can share those resources too.
Yeah.
I know there was a question earlier that I saw, Taylor, that was asking if we had a favorite curriculum that we use. And that's the thing, is there's so many great curriculums. When we're talking about all the evidence-based curriculums, and again, for folks tuning in, when I say evidence-based curriculum, that means there's proven results. That means there's been a lot of money that's went towards that shows that there's results, which is why we use those curriculums, and why we're trained in so many different curriculums, is so that we can cater to the needs of individual communities, schools. And I don't know if I have a favorite curriculum, because there's so many great ones out there.
I'm going to pick two.
Okay.
I'm going to pick FLASH, so Family Life and Sexual Health. I think that is a great curriculum that has a lot of hands-on activities, and I love that they're take-home worksheets. So there's a take-home worksheet every night that has one side that's an individual side, and it's usually telling the kids, like, go write 300 words about this topic. But the family side is 3 questions to talk to that trusted adult about, and then get a signature. So I really like that one, because I love the aspect of both sides of the take-home resource, and I love the activities. And then I think I'm going to pick 3 R's, rights, respect, and responsibility.
Really? Okay.
Because it has curriculum for every age. It goes from kindergarten to seniors in high school. So there are so many topics between all those ages. It hits that age appropriate, it hits the medically accurate, and it covers, everything that we've talked about tonight, all the way through their whole school career.
See, now, I would have to say, of course, I love TOP that we talked about earlier, but I also love Love Notes. And
those are both great.
Part of the Love Notes is that first chapter with the glitter bottles, where we talk and we pour different colors of glitter into a bottle, talking about the different chemicals that go into a brain during the beginning parts of attraction, and how that might make things not necessarily as clear as could be. Great visuals, great ways. Terrence asks a question here real quick. Taylor, Are those resources printable? And I'm guessing he's assuming about the curriculum. So I would assume he's talking about, well, I'll let you answer that question.
So a lot of our curriculum is not printable. 3Rs is actually a free online resource. So if you just Google rights, respect, responsibility, it'll pop up and you can find all those lessons and resources. The resources that I'm going to put on my Facebook page, you can print out. I think it might print out as a picture. You can save it as a PDF. But those resources that we're going to have on the YSS page on yss.org, can all be printed off a computer. I'm not tech savvy, so I can't tell you how to do that. But there's a way, I know that.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of these programs, you know, they are copyrighted, and they are, so, you know, that's why we're trained in them. That's why we are able to go out there and offer that. So again, definitely a question that you'd want to check with yss.org or go through that, contact Taylor or I on. Another question, and we got to wrap this up here. Like I say, I could talk to you all day long, all night long, I know. But if a minor doesn't have a trusted adult, can they see or talk with a medical professional anywhere without a parent consent?
Wow, that's a really great question.
That is, and that's a little deep because there's a little bit of variations that go in there.
It kind of depends on where the medical professional is. If it's just someone, because a lot of insurance and billing, I don't know how all that would work. But a great resource would be like a school nurse. Going to them, that they would be considered a medical professional, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So going to a school nurse or someone at school, when we talk about trusted adults, like we said earlier, it doesn't always have to be a parent or guardian or person in their family. There are so many people out there that might be that trusted adult. Maybe it's the football coach or the wrestling coach, or it's the band teacher, or the person next door, or the guy at Fairway who's always talking to you and just really kind, and you feel like you could really say, hey, you know, I have a question, can you help me? So there's always going to be adults out there. It's just looking around and finding someone. But there are medical professionals like nurses, guidance counselors are a lot of times have confidentiality. As long as you are not showing signs of hurting yourself or other people, a lot of times you can go to them and talk to them confidentially.
Another question here comes in from Mary Green. It sounds like you focus on adolescent optimal health and sexual health is only a component. Is that correct? What data sources do you use besides Planned Parenthood?
That's a great question, Mary. So a really big resource that I always go to is going to be the CDC. They have the Center for Disease Control. They have great resources about everything you could want to know about. I'm a frequent subscriber to the CDC. I'm always on their website. But they're going to be a great resource. Again, Advocates for Youth is a great resource. Iowa Department of Public Health has a lot of great resources. If you're looking for resources to talk to youth, amaze.com has really great short 1 to 2 minute video clips.
Yeah, like 1 to 2 minute, like you said, yeah.
They are super awesome, and it puts it into that age appropriateness. There's different ages. Oh gosh, I could sit here and tell you all night about the different resources that we use. There's just so many.
Well, and again, and that's something, Taylor, that you were just talking about on the Facebook page, that you're getting ready to put out some new resources and to put some information out there. I know in the past you've done videos, you've done talk videos, you've done like podcasts, you've done a lot of different things. So one more time, what is that Facebook that folks can go to?
It's at APPYSS or Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention YSS.
Okay, so folks that are tuning in, boy, this has been quite the conversation. We might make the record long Let's Talk ever. But sorry, I'm gonna, whoops, my bad. But I tell you what, this has been a great, but it's such a huge topic. How do you talk about it? in 30 minutes and 45 minutes.
You can't.
You
It's an
can't.
ongoing topic. It's their whole life. You start it young, and it's a continual conversation. It's not a one-time thing. It happens over and over and over and over again.
And I love what you just said, that it's not a one-stop shop. This sexual health conversation starts and it continues and it continues, and you build on that last conversation, and you build on that, and you build on that. And there's various resources you can bring in and information, and ultimately that is what we're here for, and to help provide that information. Before I let you go, Taylor, anything else that you would like to leave folks with?
Thank you, Rusty, for having me on. I am so honored to be here talking to you about sexual health, because this is so important. I love to share what I do, so I'm glad that I can share with everyone on the Facebook world what I do every day, because not everyone knows, and this is such a great resource, so thank you.
Well, and I tell you what, I really do hope, Taylor, that folks go and they rewatch this video, because we talked about so much information, so many great questions for those of you who were watching live and you chimed in. For those of you that are going to watch later on, or those of you who will share this video and other people will watch later on, you have questions that you can't put in the comment box. Again, YSS.org. Contact Taylor, contact myself.
Yes.
We'll be happy to direct you and or even just answer those questions, because Taylor knows everything, right, Taylor? No.
Pretty close.
I'll remind you of that later on. But it's been an honor of mine to have you on YSS Let's Talk. YSS Let's Talk every single Thursday night right here at We Are YSS on our Facebook page. Next week, we got quite the names. Should I be a little nervous here? But our partnership between YSS of Marshall County and the Marshalltown Police Department, that we'll be talking with Andrew Allen, our YSS president, and CEO David Hicks, YSS of Marshall County, and then Chief, and I hope I don't mispronounce this, Chief Tupper, Chief of Police of Marshalltown, and they're going to be talking about YSS, the Marshalltown Police Partnership, and working with YSS staff in the police department. And I'm really anxious to hear more about this and to learn more about that. That's kind of exciting, Taylor. Yes?
That is so exciting.
Yeah, that is really exciting. So again, that's going to be next Thursday, 7 p.m., same place, same time, right here. And again, I can't encourage people that are tuning in enough. Share this video. Get this information out there for Talk-tober. Talk-tober. Take advantage of this. Talk with, be it your kids, be it with people that you know, about healthy relationships, sexual health education. Such an important thing. And like Taylor said, you can't start too early, and the conversation really can't end.
It doesn't.
Going and going. So Taylor Nuehring, our YSS Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Coordinator, thank you so much for being here. Greatly
Thank you for having me, Rusty.
Yeah, and my name is Rusty Johnson, YSS Prevention Specialist. And until our next Thursday night, YSS Let's Talk, please be safe, and we will see you next Thursday.
Good night.